Good day, everybody. So, I wanted to speak briefly about the current planetary situation or some of it because it's happened twice now in the last 24 hours that I went on Instagram and people were speaking about many planets being in the constellation or in the sign of Aries. And it's just not the case. First of all, I want to say, so when we look into the sky at the moment, the sun is, it's still up in the sky because it's daylight time. But it's still in the constellation of Pisces, actually, like actually Pisces. And it's today is the 18th, so it's leaving Pisces on the 20th and then is going to move more fully into Aries by the 21st. If we look into the literal sky, this is what's going on. I use the phone app, and there's also a web browser site. It's called Stellarium. You can check it out there. And so, according to the actual, planetary movement, there is also, who is it? Like Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, Mars. They are all also in Pisces. The moon has just moved into Aries. And Venus, you can see it as the evening star at the moment. She starts shining the brightest as the first, pretty much. And she has recently moved into Taurus. And one of the first planetary bodies that's also visible when it gets dark in the evening, from my perspective here, I see Venus on the, just briefly above the horizon on the west. Then a little bit further up, almost above my head, I will see Jupiter. And he is still in the constellation of Gemini, not in Cancer. And so I'm always a bit hesitant posting videos like this because I'm still learning so much about this topic. And I also, I don't want to spread false information or whatever. But I notice it's rubbing me when I hear people say that there are so many planets in Aries, and it's just not the case. What I've come to learn or see, and am in the contemplation process of at the moment as well, is that this tropical zodiac perspective that is so widely used in the Western astrology, it is oriented on the seasons of the earth. And so it does make some sense because, like when spring starts, it's Aries season and it's like this forward charging, taking initiative, going with a little bit of, going with instinct. It's a fire element. So it makes sense a lot. Pisces being the last sign in this tropical, like in the zodiac, and it's kind of bringing to a close and bringing together everything that happened in the year before, and can be quite of a deep dive through the cosmic internal ocean before we go into this Aries energy. So speaking from the tropical zodiac, that's oriented on the seasons of the earth, it makes sense. But it's not oriented on the actual planetary movements through the sky. This is what true sidereal is called. If we look into the actual sky, where we see that the constellations have different sizes, so the sun moves a lot longer through Pisces than it does through Aries, for example. So one more thing I wanted to say on this as well, like which perspective should we orient on then? Because I'm still in the inquiry of that. And I personally, at this point in my exploration, I really feel like that both perspectives have their validity. And I think they find us personally when it's relevant for us. And it's just useful, I think, to not get like hyper identified with either of them, but to use it as a map and as a pointer and as a way shower if we feel like there's a need, but not to be like, go into this doctrinated thing of this is the right thing and the wrong thing and whatever we humans like to do. So that being said, the tropical zodiac that's so widely used in the West, I also think, it's tricky to call it astrology because astrology, it comes also from Greek or ancient Greek. So astra refers to the stars, and logi comes from logos, which means to know or the knowledge of. So obviously I'm not fluent in ancient Greek, but this is like the roots of the words. So astrology means the knowledge of the stars. It's like biology, the knowledge of life; psychology, the knowledge of the soul. And what else is there? And so if we do astrology, I think we need to look into the actual sky, because it is said that a few thousand years ago, when astrology kind of started, when humans started mapping the stars and reading them and observing them, astronomy and astrology, it is said, were one and the same thing. But nowadays they're not. Nowadays astrology is called a pseudoscience, or like hocus pocus or whatever. And it's understandable because it's not oriented on the actual sky. And so that being said, I think it's also interesting to consider the conversation. What is then the tropical zodiac astrology called? And I heard somebody say recently that it could be called earthology or seasonology, and I think that's actually a really interesting perspective to consider. So I wanted to share this, and I wish everybody a good day and final days of Sun in Pisces.